I'd like to start by reminding the Chamber of my previous role as convener of the Scottish Alliance for Children's Rights, and I'm also very grateful to Marie Todd using her inaugural debate today as Minister for Children and Young People to allow this Parliament to consider that important reality of the Year of Young People, which will commence in January. I'm also grateful too for the consensual tone they've sought to adopt in the motion before us, which has been mirrored in much of the debate today. And motions like this one can really bring out the best in this Parliament. They remind us of our common values and our shared objectives. They provide a sense of purpose, which pick up the challenge of Nelson Mandela when he stated that there can be no keener reflection of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its young. And I don't think there is a soul among us who does not share this government's ambition to make Scotland the best place in the world to grow up. That intent has been manifest in the many times this chamber has put aside the discord of party lines to move mountains in pursuit of that aim. And in recognition of that, I would like to put on record my thanks to colleagues from across this chamber who have worked in unison to bring forward meaningful change in our communities for our most vulnerable young people, through the increase in the age of leaving care to 21, in lifting the age of criminal responsibility and ending indiscriminate use of stop and search, in the extension of the franchise to 16-year-olds, in additional provision to Scotland's young carers, and in the common ground established around John Finney's private member's bill to end the physical punishment of children in our society. This is a powerful index of progressive change that represent the best that this Parliament can achieve when we put our differences aside. But, Presiding Officer, the Year of Young People which lies ahead should also serve to focus our attention on those many frontiers against all of us, are still coming up short. And whilst the tenor of this debate is such that on this occasion I shall not ascribe particular blame in this regard, we all do well to remember those young people in health boards across this country, in some cases waiting 2 years and more for first-line treatment in child and adolescent mental health services, to those subjected to online exploitation, abuse and bullying, those victims of child trafficking, forced to work in cannabis cultivation, nail bars and the sex industry, sometimes in slave-like conditions, those dispelled from areas in our communities through the use of high-frequency yet still legal mosquito devices, and those young people with additional support needs who, after waiting a long time for diagnosis, are still met with inadequate provision. But it is for our young people in and on the edge of Scotland's care system that I will concentrate the remainder of my remarks. Because, Deputy Presiding Officer, the life outcomes of the 15,000 children and young people who, on any given day, will find themselves in this country's care are demonstrably the worst of nearly any demographic in our society. So much so that I would go so far as to say that it is high time that this Parliament considers them for treatment in the context of other protected characteristics. A guarantee of aftercare support at the age of 25 and the extension of continuing care to 21 has been an excellent start, but we need to do more. And it is certainly my hope that the review that we are currently undertaking will see those who teach them, treat them, interact with them in any way are aware of the very specific realities that trauma, attachment disorder and loss can do to stalk their progress and development. One of the most significant recommendations in the very recent review published by Sir Harry Burns into the targets we employ in the health service was that we should be routinely capturing the extent and nature of adverse childhood events, and so too form a holistic response to that reality. So armed with that knowledge, when it comes, we need to ensure that we have a network both of trauma recovery services and a trauma-informed approach that supports young people throughout their development. So I welcome the distance travelled by this Parliament, and I offer my cooperation and that of these benches to join efforts to address those frontiers without precondition. And I recognise the will that does exist across this chamber. And if I may say so, Presiding Officer, to hear the First Minister make space in her speech on the programme for government to actively give voice to the possibility of incorporating the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child into Scots law, which had been dismissed out of hand in the last session, is a measure of the progress that our nation is making in bringing us closer to realising the rights of young people and in giving them a meaningful voice in the life of this country. And I thank her for it. It's why I sought the Minister to restate that commitment in her opening remarks. Because enshrining in law the need for decision makers to actively listen to the voice of young people will help us go some way to answering the challenge described by American futurist Alvin Toffler when he said that the secret message which is communicated to most young people today by the society around them is that they are not needed, but that society will run itself quite nicely until they, at some distant point in the future, will take over the reins. Yet the fact is that the society is not running itself nicely because the rest of us need all the energy, brains, imagination, and talent that young people can bring to bear down on our difficulties. So, Presiding Officer, I leave you with those powerful words and assure both the government and the Labour Party